Supervision shouldn't feel like surviving a bad group project, but too often supervisors unintentionally cause toxic climates by skipping contracts or moving the goalposts or just not showing up. Supervisors, in this episode, I'm going to show you how to stop the drama before it starts. All right, welcome everybody. So glad you're here. I've got my list open in case we have more folks that want to attend today. So last week I talked about toxic supervision, what that looks like. And then I said, okay, this week, today, I would hopefully be able to provide you with more specifics, and I can because we've got some surveys that are coming out, and surveys are based on, input. I mean, they're trying to gather data, but they have to start somewhere. So they're coming from data, trying to gather more data. Also, there is another, not a petition going around, but there's some information going around about uh, trying to change some rules. And so I have opinions. I'm sure you folks do too. I'm sure, and I hope you make your position known. But I want to go through that as well because where I'm coming up with this, how can we make supervision not toxic? What are things we can actively do or change? It's simpler than you think. And if you've taken the Kate Walker training, 40-hour training, whether you've taken it this year or you took it 15 years ago, we've been teaching the same framework. Laws change, rules change, lots of things change, but the framework stays the same. And it's the relationship, right? We want to preserve the relationship. And so I'm going to start with the LMFT survey that's going around. The LPC survey, as of the date of this recording, it's 9/23 today. So it will probably be out by the time I'm able to put this into the Step It Up profile. So hopefully you'll be filling it out by then. But some of the questions that are being asked, how many supervisors did you have? What was the highest amount you paid for supervision? And what was this amount per hour, per week, per month? And this question was really interesting to me. If you paid a set fee, was the fee higher than your hourly rate? So this is asking the supervisee, is the supervision fee matching the hourly rate? Is it higher than the hourly rate? And then how reasonable did you find the fee to be? And were there any amenities included in this set fee? What were those amenities? I'm on question 18. So we just had a whole batch of questions right there related to fees. And if I were to pull up the other petition, you would see, we would notice, Andy, cut it out, buddy. We would notice that fees are huge. And I'm going to tie this up in just a second. So thinking about fees, what is your fee? Is it reasonable? And if it's high, high for your area, high for your demographic, high for your specialty, what else are you offering? That's what amenities are. So some examples of amenities: office space, office furniture, administrative support for billing, client referrals, et cetera, et cetera. So that's going to be huge. Then the next set of questions speak to, was your supervision in person or virtual? So this is LMFT, and remember, LMFT has always struggled with this idea of providing anything virtually. And, they just got rid of the rules prohibiting telephone supervision, like this past rule change. So that's what I imagine a lot of that is about. So I'm interested to see, we may see some data that comes back where folks are wanting more in-person supervision, or maybe they're wanting more virtual. I don't know how many folks supervising we have out there who are like, no, I just want to be in person. I like virtual. Continuing on, group supervision. How many people are in the group is one thing that they're asking. And I know there are a lot of supervisors out there who don't realize, whether it's the law in your state or not, 50% That's all you should be providing in a group. That's going to be three or more in your supervision. And some folks are still providing group supervision every single time. And then there's a lot of there are a lot of questions about skills and did supervision teach you those skills? And then it just gets to harm. Asking respondents, were they harmed in supervision and the extent? And so using the so number one, and this is what I was going to circle back to, did you have a contract? So I'm not talking about the paperwork that we submit to the state. As of this recording, no contract is required in the rules, but it's always been best practices. So providing a contract is number one. Establishing expectations at the onset of supervision, tracking experience hours weekly. Was the supervisor available between supervision sessions? Did they provide 1 hour of supervision each week? Did they address issues in the relationship? So in other words, I can see you're standoffish today. What's going on? Are you mad at me? Are you angry with your clients? I mean, are you a supervisor who's able to address conflict and approach it, right? Or do you just withdraw and pretend like it's not there? Did your supervisor behave unethically? Did your supervisor ask you for advice or ask you to educate them about areas in which I have training or expertise? And we see this a lot, especially in the multicultural arena. Well, I'm not this, so why don't you tell me about that? And that's wonderful, if you've started the conversation, but for a supervisor to depend on the supervisee to teach them or handhold them through those things rather than the supervisor becoming multiculturally competent themselves, yeah, that's not good. And then, did this supervisor provide evaluative feedback? Now, if you've taken the Kate Walker training course, we talk about summative and formative evaluation, right? Formative is like every day, good job. I really like the way you're processing. Great conceptualization. Summative is paper and pencil. I'm going to put that in air quotes. You don't have to have paper and pencil, but it has to be something that's documented. And that's what we teach in the course. We call it the OER triad: orientation, evaluation, then remediation. So that's one of the things they're asking on the survey. Did you provide, or I'm sorry, this is to the supervisee, did you receive evaluative feedback? Were you enabled to develop your own style? Were you treated with respect? Was confidentiality maintained? And then it gets into exploitation, embarrassment, shame, public humiliation, use drugs with me. So it goes to an extreme. Y'all aren't doing that. I'm not going to go there. But when we start with, okay, what can we do? You got to have a contract. Now, the contract does not have to be set in stone. And I think this is why maybe supervisors don't do it, because the obviously things are going to change. Your fees may change. The days of the week you meet may change. Your evaluation schedule may change. And you know what? That's okay. You can change all of those things. But as I mentioned last time, we talked about this. When you mess with someone's money or you mess with someone's time, there will be negative consequences. And so having a contract is just an easy way to get that out in the open, because the petition, if I pull that up, one of the first things, no, Adobe, I don't want to try that or learn that. Thank you. One of the first things that it mentions is the idea of, no, I'm sorry, it's not the first thing. It's actually number 5, compensation and supervision cost guidelines. This is the request, add a new subsection to 68193 requiring that supervision fees be reasonable, clearly disclosed, and agreed upon in writing before supervision begins. Y'all, that's contract, right? I mean, if we have supervisors out there that are not disclosing fees, or they're saying one thing when they sign the paperwork and then they're changing it when something else happens, right? I just don't see why we need, my soapbox. I would hate to see a rule enacted that forces us to do something when best practices says this is what we should be doing anyway. So making sure that you are being very transparent about the compensation. And then, the question, like I said, I've seen again and again and again is your supervisor charging more than your hourly rate? So that's the supervisee's rate that they charge for clients or the rate that they're getting paid by their agency. And if so, it's always tied into this, what are you getting? Right? I mean, if you are going to be an EMDR specialist and you're going to supervise someone and at the same time make sure that they are EMDR certified, charge for that. All right, that's great. Put it in your contract. But I think what they're seeing, and they're calling it exploitation, is when supervisees are being charged double perhaps their hourly rate, not our hourly rate, but the supervisee's hourly rate, and they're really not getting anything for it. So I and other supervisors, we are sort of standing on our soapboxes going, buyer beware, buyer beware. Come on, read the contract. And then it's like, oh, lots of supervisors aren't doing contracts. So I'm just like, I've got a palm print right here where I just like, oh my gosh, we need to put this stuff. We do it with our clients, right? It's got to be in the service agreement. How much we're going to charge. You can't change anything in a service agreement or consent for treatment with your client unless it's in writing. That is in the rules. So let me circle back to number one. Number one is failure to meet monthly supervision minimum. This is if the supervisee does. It doesn't say explicitly in the rules that they lose all of their hours, so they want that clarified. Yeah, that's fair. I don't blame them. Number two, they want a rule. The petition says, I don't want to represent that this represents all supervisees. The petition says, require supervision contracts. I don't have a problem with that. I think it might burden staff if we're having to upload forms and upload contracts and updated contracts and updated contracts. So I'm not sure how they would do that unless they, simply say it must be in the file. And then if they pull records, they could see that. Um, Number three is ethical oversight of supervisory business practices. I'm pretty sure in Texas, the LPC board doesn't have that authority in statute to oversee ethical business. But again, that's why people join Step It Up. You guys are you're going to be ethical. We're going to make sure you're ethical. And then number four, I need to do a whole webinar on. So here's the thing, supervision, supervisor, termination protocols. Did y'all know that supervisors have no mechanism to terminate their supervisee? Like we talked about that a little bit last time, but I'm still getting this what? Even, in the Texas Supervisor Coalition Facebook group, had one of our attorneys who's also a supervisor say, what? But it's true. You are the supervisor of record until that supervisee upgrades or gets another supervisor. I mean, they can backdate it, they meaning staff, once they get the paperwork, they can backdate it to the day you say we are through. But in that meantime, that limbo, no man's land, you are the supervisor. And so that's one of the things, even I've probably confused folks in my course, because if a supervisee does something egregious, I preach, hey, that's the one time you don't need a remediation plan. Get them off your roster, file the complaint, et cetera, et cetera. And now, as I've learned more, I'm seeing, wait, you're still the supervisor of record. And now you've got somebody who actually, does a poor job. it's probably important that you do really extra oversight on this person until the complaint goes through, the supervision is backdated, terminated, right? All of these things. So I say all of that because number four asks that the supervisor not be able to terminate the supervisee relation. I'm going to read it. I'm saying it wrong. Supervisor terminates a supervisory relationship. They must provide at least 30 days written notice to the LPC associate and the board. That's what they're requesting. The notice must include the effective date, a general reason for termination, and confirmation that final logs will be submitted. Failure to provide timely notice or documentation may be grounds for disciplinary review. So the problem with that is there's already a rule. We must turn it in all paperwork within 30 days of terminating the supervisee relationship. But then we have the same problem. We can't really terminate it. We can say, and my example in the Facebook group is like, it's like telling your spouse, I divorce you, right? I divorce you. Well, it's not official until the powers that be say it's official. We're kind of in the same predicament. So right now, the supervisees hold all the power because if they want to fire us, they can go have, and form relationships with another supervisor, fill out the paperwork, turn in the paperwork. They don't even have to tell us, and then show up to supervision and say, hey, by the way, instead of that completing that remediation plan, I'm firing you. So see ya. Right? And there's no rule that says that you get to communicate with that new supervisor. So this one, I think, well, there are a couple of them. I don't think that one has a whole lot of merit. So, back to the title of this training, and I want to open it up to questions for you guys. But when you're preventing a toxic climate, it really does start with that contract, defining how you will charge them, how often, what comes with it, and when meetings happen. And that includes you not showing up for supervision, right? If you're not able to make supervision, are you making sure that that supervisee now gets their 4 hours of supervision if you're in Texas LPC, weekly supervision if you're in LMFT or other disciplines? Are you doing your due diligence, or are you saying, hey, I just don't have time to make it up? Well, that's on you. And that not only will create a toxic climate, but that's actually reportable, right? Your supervisee can report you for not being available for supervision. So define the time, define the money, and then define the what ifs. Well, what if your supervisee has a job change and they can't come Tuesday at 4:30 anymore, right? Or what if you can't? What if your situation changes and you can't do supervision at 4 o'clock on Wednesdays? So the late cancel no-show policy, that's one of the things we really pound into folks' heads in the K Walker training. We want you to have a late cancel no-show policy. And then the creme de la creme, the number one thing that I see folks complained about is when you slap somebody with a remediation plan, or you do say, I'm firing you after 12 and a half months of everything being peachy, right? If your LPC associate is on track to finish at 18 months and at 16 and a half months, you're saying, you know what? I'm going to give you a remediation plan because you're being you got a little bit of an attitude. Come on. If you took my course, level 2 behavior is that push and pull. They are developing their own style. They are trying to establish themselves in their counselor identity. So again, how do you define, well, they're just annoying? Well, you pull out your Lambie CCSR, your evaluation instrument, you find the criteria that matches that. You make sure, and it's sorry, if you're at 16 and a half months and you have never given an evaluation, then before you fire that supervisee or slap them with a remediation plan out of the blue, I would give them an evaluation and start the conversation. So hopefully that addresses everything, but I want to answer your questions. So I'm going to open it up. I'll go ahead and hit record. Or no, I'll turn off record. If this episode gave you practical ways to create healthy supervision, hit like, tap subscribe, and grab the free resource at katewalkertraining.com/checklist. Better supervision equals better outcomes for you and your supervisees.